everybody, welcome back to theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Again, it's theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Thank you guys for watching. I've been doing a lot of quick 1 minute or shorter videos for YouTube. So these are videos that I made on Snapchat first because there's a surprisingly large number of people who work in the industry, or at least they're curious about the industry, who are on Snapchat. And I'd like to be the first one there, at least the first that I know of in our industry, to be on there. And there's like a big land grab right now going on, just like YouTube back in 08, maybe Facebook back in 08, Instagram definitely like 2012. So Snapchat's definitely for 2016, I think, the platform to get people's attention, okay, because you're not competing with as many sources there yet. All right, pretty soon, I think by 2018, it's going to get really crowded and really noisy there as well, just like YouTube has been. But YouTube has been fantastic. I love you guys who watch on YouTube. If you're watching on the blog, I love you too. Thank you guys for watching. Keep your questions coming. I'm live streaming this one on Periscope also. Username is Dan Sfera. I will be at Scope in February, the Scope conference in Miami in February. I hope to be live streaming a couple behind the scenes footage of me interviewing people there, people who are doing up to cool things in the industry, doing big things in the clinical research industry. I'm also going to be on a panel where I'll be talking about risk-based monitoring, so I hope to live stream that one. I'll sneak the cameras in there, I'll sneak the iPad in there, and maybe have one of you guys live stream it, right? So keep your questions coming. For those of you who don't know how this works, you can email me your questions, dan@theclinicaltrialsguru.com. I'll keep you anonymous, I'll answer it. You can also snap me. By the way, if you're trying to hack my attention, because I've been getting tons of emails, lots of texts, lots of calls, I get back to all of them as quickly as I can, but I've been living on Snapchat this year, and it's only January 11th. So my attention's there. Anyone out there is trying to hack ways to get across me and let's say email, you're not getting a response, dan@theclinicaltrialsguru.com, or phone or text 949-415-6256. Try Snapchat, alright? My username is Dan Sfera. I've been living on there lately, so try me there, okay? So let me get into these questions because they're good, and I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth between a couple viewer questions. Some viewers ask multiple questions, so I'm going to kind of jump back and forth. Maybe we'll keep this video around 20 minutes because I am live streaming it, and because I've been doing so many 1 minute YouTube videos, I feel like I want to do a longer video now. So let's get right into it. First question is actually, we'll start out with a really tough question. What are some things that differentiate good research sites from bad research sites? When things go badly in a clinical trial, who is to blame? So first of all, it's all subjective, and context is important. Timing is also important. You can have a really good site by whatever definition or criteria you use, and they perform poorly or badly on one protocol. It just might happen, and for that sponsor, if it's their first experience with that site, they're going to think they're a bad site. Vice versa, you can have an awful site that makes mistakes constantly on other protocols, but for some reason, on one protocol, they're doing really good. Maybe the sponsor is not paying close enough attention. Maybe they're just focusing on enrollment numbers. Whatever the case may be, that site might look particularly good to the sponsor, but they're actually bad to everyone else. Now that's going to be going away a little. CROs and sponsors, especially after the Transcelerate movement and that whole movement towards collaborating amongst the sponsors, particularly the big pharma companies, they're starting to share data. So they're sharing data such as study results. They're starting to share data such as investigators that they utilize for their clinical trials, and they're going to start keeping metrics, because guess what? Risk-based monitoring and remote monitoring and all these virtual workspaces are going to give sponsors and CROs real data, right? Not just subjective data, but real data, meaning how quickly does the site enter EDC? How quickly does the site enter data in the EDC system? How quickly do they resolve queries that are issued? How quickly do they respond back to emails? With virtual workspaces, you can actually see when someone looked at a document or downloaded a document, and we're going to get to the point where you're going to be able to track how much time someone spent with a particular document. So you're going to know whether they really know the protocol or whether they really paid attention to whatever document was given to them, or whether they just opened it for a second to print it out or to save it and then forgot about it. So they're going to start keeping track of all these things. This is just the beginning. 2016 is just the very beginning of this stuff. We're just in the infancy of these kind of technologies, and as these technologies become cheaper, sponsors are going to start implementing them more. EDC, the whole EDC revolution from last decade with the electronic data capture. Prior to 2005, sites were at 90% of protocols entering the data on paper-based CRF. Fast forward 10 years later, 2015, 2016, you're not seeing that at all. Although one viewer told me in Europe they still use paper-based CRFs. So, but we're headed towards more and more digitization of data, and that's going to help sponsors establish better metrics, and you better believe they're going to be sharing this stuff amongst their participating sponsors who would like to share this kind of information. We're definitely entering a much more collaborative environment in research, and so what distinguishes good sites from bad sites today may not be the case in 2017, 2018. They're going to have real data. Right now it's still a little bit word of mouth, or a lot of word of mouth actually, but what they do judge the sites on, because I want to keep this content practical, is enrollment, right? Patient enrollment. So how many patients does the site say that they can enroll in a study, and how many patients do they actually end up enrolling when the study is finished? Because a lot of times sponsors project the study timelines based on what projections the sites give them as far as their enrollment numbers. So they really don't like it when a site promises 10 patients and enrolls 0 patients, right? And I just did a Snapchat story of 1 is better than 0, meaning even if you promise the sponsor, let's just say 10 subjects, and you don't have any, and the study's about to close, you better work as hard as you can to get at least 1 patient enrolled, because 1 is infinitely better than 0. That is literally true. That is also practically true when it comes to our business. If you enroll 0, you're basically wasting the sponsor's time and money. They're sending CRAs out to initiate your site, to select your site, to monitor your site for no data. Whereas if you have 1 patient, and then if you do have that 1 patient, make sure they finish the study so that you can give the sponsor at least some good clean data and some value for the money that they spent on your site. So 1 is definitely better than 0. One of the biggest metrics sponsors and CROs use to differentiate good sites from bad sites is enrollment. Now onto the operations side of things. Another thing they look at is query resolution. How quickly do you respond to queries on the EDC system? Because sponsors want to lock their databases, right? Using risk-based monitoring, they have timelines where they have to analyze the data, and if they're sitting around waiting for a few sites to answer their queries, they can't lock their database, and this just costs them more money. Costs them millions of dollars over the course of the study because a few sites can't get their act together and answer queries on time. So answering queries is very important. Entering data in the EDC is extremely important too, and they can track these things already, and they do track these things. So how quickly after a visit do you enter your data? An acceptable answer is 24 to 72 hours. Anything longer than that, you will fall under the bad site spectrum, for lack of a better word. Quicker than 24 hours, awesome. Alright, I know some sites that enter data almost instantly, which is good because they have someone that just enters data. We have someone here at Global Clinical Trials, their only job is to enter data, so literally when the visit is finished, the source documents get passed on to this person's waiting to enter the data, it's done within an hour or less, right? Another thing they look at is protocol deviations. So how many protocol deviations did you have? And these are considered major screw-ups by the site. So you want to keep protocol deviations as low as possible. 0 would be ideal, but everybody has protocol deviations every now and then. The key is not to make consistent mistakes and not to show the sponsor that the site really has no idea what they're doing. So the number of protocol deviations is important. You want to keep those down. And the type of protocol deviations. Are you constantly having to retrain your staff on one recurring issue over and over again? Well, that could be a problem, and it may prevent sponsors from giving you future studies. So I think those are the 3 big ones. PI oversight is also big, and there's no real way for the sponsors to track this except for the monitor and the monitor notes on whether they were able to meet with the PI or not, how much time were they able to meet with the PI, and then the monitor's subjective opinion on the PI's oversight. But we will actually get to the point with virtual workspaces and all these other things, we will be able to track exactly how much time the PI spent looking at a document. We're getting there. If you guys don't think that's coming, you're in for a treat in the next 10 years. Okay, this stuff is coming, so we're going to have data on all these things that were once subjective. They're now going to be objective, and lots of data for the sponsors to share, look at, and decide who gets studies in the future, who doesn't. We're not there yet, so there's more subjective metrics now, right? But it's coming. It's coming. Next question. This one came from Snapchat also, actually. So actually this one's pretty, I pretty much covered this. I mean, the future of EDC and the future of pharma. They just want my opinion on this. So EDC, I mean, it's pretty much used in 90-95% of trials. Electronic data capture, for those of you who may not know. The platforms haven't really evolved much since they came out. I mean, they've been perfected. Like, the majority of the value from the changes they made have already occurred. So now you're getting minor tweaks here and there based on individual protocols. To me, that's not interesting. What is interesting is the passive data entry that I believe is going to be coming with the wearable devices that study participants are going to be soon given. So rather than a study coordinator entering vital signs, you're going to have a device that passively enters that data with timestamp data, accurate data. You don't have to worry about study coordinator or data entry error when they're entering the data. You're going to have all this stuff kind of being transmitted passively. I see that as the future of EDC. And like I said, the future of pharma in general, I mean, I'm not going to get into pharma outside of clinical research because I don't know, right? But pharma within clinical research, more collaboration among sponsors, more breaking up of bigger companies. So less Pfizers, they're already starting to break up a little, and more biotechs. And I think you're going to start having lots of new customers that you've never heard of. Customers, if you're a research clinic, it means a sponsor. So we've worked in the last 5 years. We've worked with many more biotechs that I've never heard of prior to working with them on a study than I have with big pharma, like Pfizer, Eli Lilly, Janssen. And I see that as a trend that's going to be continuing in 2016, 2017, 2018. So that's the future of clinical trials of pharma from a clinical trials perspective. The good thing about these biotech companies is that they are obviously smaller, they have less red tape, they have less bureaucratic intervention, so they're more willing to experiment with new technologies such as virtual workspaces and wearable technologies, and we're getting there. We're definitely getting there. Virtual workspaces, again, you're going to be able to monitor PI oversight much better than you can now, and with a greater degree of certainty than you are now, so less subjective, more objective, and I think that's where we're going with that, right? Another question, how would you recommend raising capital if you only have one source of income? So I'm assuming you want to start a brand new site. Here's what I recommend. You could go out and find investors. I wouldn't do that. And first of all, I've done both. Okay, I've had sites where I started it myself. I've had sites where I've gotten investors. It's much better in the long run, maybe not in the short run, right? But in the long run, it's way better to not have investors and to keep as few partners as possible. So in the short run, it might seem better. Hey, you need an infusion of cash. Awesome, let me bring on an investor. Well, that gets old really quick because the investors are not running charities. They are for profit and they want to see a return on their investments. And what that means is that you're not going to be able to operate how you want to operate the business all the time because you have investors to answer to. So if you can, you have to bootstrap it, okay? And you can start a research clinic for very little money. It depends on how creative you can get. I've discussed strategies on this show before. You don't even have to pay rent. You could partner with a doctor, use their office, pay them a percentage of the study when you get paid. So you're delaying having to pay any upfront cost as much as possible. The benefit of going that route is the physician may already have an office with most of the equipment that you might need, like weighing scales, blood pressure cuffs, centrifuges, having a lab, things like that. And any equipment that the doctor may not have in total, and we've done the math because we partner with the research clinics across the country as equity partners, and we also consult with a lot of clinics across the country, so we advise them on these kind of matters on a daily basis. You can buy all the equipment you need for just a regular phase 2 through 4 outpatient clinic for $6,000. Now, I'm not talking about going out and buying x-ray machines and all that stuff. First of all, you don't need that. Second of all, you can always outsource that. I'm just talking about the basics. Desks, waiting room chairs, centrifuges, vital sign equipment, those kind of things. Cabinets, chairs. So $6,000, you can get away with it. That's how I would raise capital. I would raise capital by actually you putting in sweat equity into your business, because guess what? Nobody is going to care about your business more than you. No employee, no investor. They're not going to care about your business. They're going to care about their money. So it really comes down to you, and you got to be really careful about how you go about doing this. I would recommend perhaps learning the business first. Maybe work for somebody and then go out and start your own. Or if you already know the business, learn each individual task. Like learn how to be a study coordinator, learn what a study coordinator needs to do, and then go out and hire a study coordinator, and you write the SOP for that study coordinator. So good questions I've been getting. Let me get to one more before I go. We recently went to an investigator meeting. This is a good one. So they recently went to an investigator meeting, and they spent a lot of time. Obviously no money because sponsors pay for your travel and your hotel, but they spent a lot of time. The PI of the study had to take the days off of work, and supposedly they make like $2,000 a day, maybe more. The coordinator, who's also the business owner, had to drop what she was doing in order to go to this 3-day investigator meeting. And then it turns out that they did not get awarded the study. Alright, so when they got back, they got an email a few days later stating, hey, you didn't get the study, sorry. They didn't cancel the study. I find that's the interesting part. They just told this site they're not getting the study, so I wonder what they said at the investigator meeting. That would be a first for me. I mean, you'd have to really say something bad or raise several red flags for the sponsors to pull the study out from underneath you after they've invested all that time and money. So this question is, can this person bill for their time? And the answer is, I don't know. You're going to have to try. I mean, if you have a contract in place, contracts usually have invoiceable items. What I would do if I was in your situation, first of all, I would try to find out why, because you don't want to repeat this mistake. And then I would invoice them regardless of what my contract says and let them tell me yes or no. And I would probably, if they say no, I would still insist on perhaps getting at least some of my time paid for, and I would bring up justifications for why. But really try to find out why it is that you did not get the study, right? And that's all the time I have for today. Thank you guys very much for following me on Snapchat, for following me on YouTube, for following me on the blog, Periscope. Thank you guys as well. Dan from theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Take care.